As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. Forever American is what I am.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Real News Live. How you guys doing tonight? Hopefully you guys are all having a great night. Sorry I'm a little bit late tonight. Hi, Richard. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Paulette. Hi, Tia. Hi, Rodney. Hi, Josie. Thank you, Linda, for that donation. Hello. How you doing tonight? Hi, Pam. And hi, Susie. How you guys all doing? Make sure you hit that share button so we make sure we get out there to as many people as possible. Everything going on in the world, because it's just getting trickier and trickier every day. Facebook, of course, making it harder for us to reach people. And let's be honest, U.S. lawmakers are blaming each other at this point as the debt ceiling standoff, and they're not negotiating. Republicans and Democrats continue to trade political remarks, or pointed remarks, underscoring that the agreement is not in reach to avoid default. Repeat that. Is not in reach to avoid default. So they're expecting a default. Lawmakers exchanging criticism, blaming each other. Protracted standoff of the debt ceiling, even today, as the country nears its debt limit to avoid the federal default talks between Joe Biden and House Speaker McCarthy continue as negotiators met again to hash out details of a potential deal, both parties simultaneously trading pointed remarks, underscoring that an agreement is not yet in reach. And this, of course, people don't realize what this actually means, but not making a debt ceiling means no food stamps, no housing benefits, no Social Security payments, no disability payments, no cash assistance, no health insurance payments. I mean, yet this happening in June is going to be the worst time because June 1st, our Treasury debt bills become payments on the debt for the Treasury that we already owe the $31.4 trillion. Those payments become due. They only due every 6 months. But the problem is June and December are those 2 months. June 1st, we owe $117 billion. June 6th, there'll be a $123 billion payment. All the payments are met this month for the entire 6 month time frame. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 payments due this month. 10 payments totaling over $1 trillion due just on interest rates. Just on interest rates. People need to understand that. And that, of course, just be compounded because those payments won't be made either. As U.S. lawmakers, of course, play back and forth with this. And what it's going to mean is a big thing because nobody's talking about what could happen. But possibly we could see what happened in Germany, where they seized half of all assets when the government defaulted on its debt back in the early 2000s. I'm sure you guys remember that. And to go actually into debt, but a deficit, and keeping cash flowing will not be easy. The only way to do that would be to seize assets at that point. And it's a problem. The problem is not the revenue. The problem is spending. I mean, we spent so much more every year, and we keep doing it every year. It's ridiculous. Every time we turn around, the government wants to throw more money at the same problem, causing bigger problems because, of course, you can't just keep putting money into the same pot and expecting it to multiply. You can't spend more and expect the money just to come from nowhere. And that's what they're doing at this point. Failing to raise the $31.4 trillion borrowing cap before it exhausts its cash and its borrowing capacity. We're talking serious late payments and missed payments. I mean, the Treasury has to pay $1.3 trillion in Treasury principal and interest, or just interest payments on the Treasury notes. $1.3 trillion next month. That means this year total, we will pay $2.6 trillion just on the interest of the $31 trillion. People don't understand how bad that is because it's not including bond payments. That's just the interest on the debt. Our country brings in between $4 to $5 trillion a year. So you're taking half of that and just paying debt that we already owed. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, considering June 1st is the drop dead date, meaning assuming technical default, this is going to be crazy because these early matured June interest rate or interest that we have to pay compound very quickly. It's going to compound very quickly. And not only that, they got some crazy polls out today, and we're going to talk about them today. Because supposedly half of the U.S. public approves of military aid to Ukraine. Supposedly a poll, the polls are showing this, that more than half of Americans somehow think that giving aid to Ukraine is going to help. I mean, yes, we have a lot of support for Ukraine, but giving U.S. money to Ukraine when we're already in a deficit and a problem of our own is a huge problem. I don't see how Americans see this failure coming. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, of course, this was out of the Chicago Harris School of public policy. The survey was performed, so who knows what the actual percentage is. I mean, but finding support for ongoing supplies of weapons to Ukraine for defense against Russia is one thing. But that's not what's happening. We know that because why would already this be happening? Russian fighters intercepting US bombers. Russian fighters having to intercept US bombers on the first day of European deployment. That's right. Russian fighter jets intercepted two B-1B Lancers from Texas over the Baltic Sea yesterday. Bombers began a deployment into the European theater, but why are they flying over the Baltic Sea? Why are they even trying to do this? The Lancers, of course, came directly from the U.S. We know this. That's not a question. I mean, watching NATO allies and partners, of course, in the Baltic Sea region build up defenses at a rapid pace. Watching what's happening here in America, and if you don't know, this is very important. Their salt mines, gypsum mines, old coal mines are all being taken over by U.S. military. If you live close to one, I'm sure you've seen it yourself. Military is now stationing inside of mines, which hasn't been done since Cuban Missile Crisis days. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about what's actually happening. Massive amounts of supplies are being diverted into these storage facilities or bunkers, whatever you want to call them. But that's what's happening. If you live next to one of these mines, I'm sure you've seen it. And it's crazy. People don't realize what's happening. Of course, Pentagon's saying there's nothing significant to report on the front of supposable taking over mines. Yeah, B-1B. Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah, Alex, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy to watch what's happening. People don't realize this because people aren't paying attention. Nobody's talking about it. And watching what's happening, I mean, the U.S. obviously flying direct intercepts now into Russian territory. And then images now showing the raid that happened inside of Russia of these supposedly non-Ukrainian assistant or people that are pro-Ukraine but not Ukrainian citizens. The image is showing now U.S. vehicles were being used in this raid into Russia. And questions are abound by it. I mean, asked about the imagery emerging on social media purportedly to show U.S.-made armored vehicles captured in Russia during this week's border crossing incursion. The Pentagon said it did not authorize the transfer of equipment to the paramilitary organization outside of Ukraine Armed Forces, Kiev, and received no request to do so. We're trying to throw this off again. This is not us. We didn't cause this, you know. We didn't allow this. It just happened, supposedly. This is a joke. Literally a joke. As this group attacked a group called Freedom for Russian Legionnaires and Russians Volunteer Corps, several U.S. vehicles crossed a border during the attack on Russia. While we cannot independently confirm the use of those vehicles in the attack, obviously, you know, the images are showing, confirm. It's not a question, it's confirmed. The images captured an M1 or M1224, a Max Pro MRAP, and two M1151s. And of course, HMMWVs, which are new Humvees. One of the HMWVs was damaged and captured. Ukraine's weapon tracker, open source investigator, concurred with this assessment. They've admitted it. So U.S.-made vehicles are just randomly showing up in Russia now after they've been captured. And everybody wants to say, well, it wasn't us, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. We didn't allow this to happen. It's sad because the U.S. is going to end up paying the ultimate price for this, whether we like it or not. I mean, paying the ultimate price is not a joke. Obviously, the U.S. government's preparing for something bigger. They're not talking about what. But we know they are, just by the actions of themselves and what they're actually doing out there. As crazy as that might sound, this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. And it's going to be a sad shape of events once it unfolds. I mean, if you look online, you can go to Ukraine Weapon Tracker on Twitter, and you can see the vehicles. They have plenty of pictures of vehicles that got damaged, that got sent across the border. Supposedly, the U.S. had no involvement, but we are monitoring closely, very closely, what happened, according to the Pentagon. All they can say is the U.S. confirmed that it did not approve any third-party transfers of the equipment. Well, I think it wasn't paramilitary. I think it was U.S. military at this point. People may question, say that's not true. But even U.S. agencies are finding signs that Ukraine have carried out attacks on the Kremlin, using drone attacks. And of course, these drones were U.S. drones. U.S. officials even told the New York Times attacks were likely completed by special military units. So what does this mean? Direct involvement with Ukraine means we sent weapons of defense only. That was the rule. We're sending offensive weapons and they're being used offensively. U.S. officials anonymously said that the drone attacks, which intelligence officers and groups previously suggested were likely a Russian false flag operation, were possibly completed by one of Ukrainian special forces or intelligent units of an unknown origin. How is an intelligence unit of an unknown origin managed to go into Ukraine and attack Russia? I want to know. What are your thoughts on that? Because the acknowledgement of this happening, and it wasn't a false flag operation, is a big problem. Of course, no damage was really done when this drone attack happened in Moscow, but when Putin wasn't there, this is a problem. There's several indications that suggest the strike was intentionally conducted and purposely, and it points to, of course, they're trying to say Russia still did it, but it's extremely unlikely. The attack was caught on camera. Of course, so the U.S. said it was a staged attack, but now, of course, saying that these drones, the smaller drones carrying limited explosive payloads, were ours. We supplied them to Ukraine. What is that going to mean for us as we keep pushing this? Amongst that, Chinese, of course, war games simulated massive losses for the U.S., and experts are saying these are not propaganda. These war game simulations that China did that were conducted by Chinese scientists and Beijing's military could demolish U.S. aircraft carrier groups with a relatively small number of hypersonic missiles. Experts, of course, saying that the game's propaganda value and showing China's capability seriously threaten the U.S., some suggest the simulation may not be far from reality. The U.S. will take devastating losses in the war over Taiwan, is what's being said right now. And I don't think we can dismiss it as pure propaganda. Let's be honest. In a rare move, Chinese scientists published the combat simulation in which Beijing forces annihilated U.S. aircraft carriers and supporting ships with hypersonic missile strikes, which we know is more than capable. The U.S. Department of Defense already admitted this. But the games, of course, show that massive losses on U.S. sides. Over the course of 20 simulated battles, China sunk carrier fleets like the U.S. General R. Ford and several successful volleys of hypersonic missiles, and suggest serious problems for U.S. military in a real-world conflict. This war game showed what might occur when China defends against U.S. Navy or surface Navy assets nearing China's claimed island. Of course, nobody's really speaking from the U.S., according to the military and specialty experts that will speak from the U.S., said that this simulation's pretty accurate of what would happen. I mean, watching this is drastic. It's showing a drastic change in who has military command and supremacy. People need to understand we no longer are the leaders in the world. Meanwhile, of course, the House in a new U.S. Congress committee on the Chinese approval reports on Wednesday pushes back on Beijing, of course, over the treatment and intentional conflict with Taiwan, hoping for some recommendations to become law by the end of the year, forcing, of course, Taiwan's independence. Washington says China is committing ongoing genocide, of course, against people of ethnic minorities within a certain region of China. But that's one thing. We're talking about what's happening in Taiwan, and it could be even worse. If the U.S. does decide to push these laws into action and Congress starts writing a National Defense Authorization Act, a sweeping bill for setting policies for the Department of Defense, it could put serious policy recommendations on some of its policy recommendations on Taiwan would be serious, including improving combined training between U.S. and Taiwanese military and speedy delivery of weapons, and Congress already approved the sale of strengthening U.S. bases in the region, which could add to that bill. Congress has passed every year for 6 decades, of course, strengthening the region. People of Taiwan deserve to live in peace and freedom from threats and intimidation. I'll give you that. But the problem is, knowing that the Chinese military could easily overcome our own, and Taiwan itself is a territory of China. We agree with that. That is not a question. Thank you for that donation, Alex. Thank you for that $20 donation, Alex. But watching this unfold is drastic. People need to be prepared. It's not getting better, that's for sure, and it's not going to get better anytime soon watching what's happening. I mean, but it's a drastic problem. Banks are going under. Our U.S. currency is becoming valueless, and it will be very soon. And Europe's having more trouble than ever. Just getting out of the energy crisis, Europe is now facing food shock. Europeans are now facing food prices explosions that are changing diets and forcing customers across the region to tighten their belts, literally. And this is happening even though inflation as a whole is falling thanks to lower energy prices. This is a joke right now, literally a joke going on around the world. But watching these, of course, billions of aid deployed last year to keep businesses and households afloat from the worsening energy crisis in decades. New data shows that inflation in the UK and Europe abound. Food prices were up 19.3% from earlier this year. 20% increase on food prices there. It's coming here, you guys. This isn't just going to happen in Europe. This continuing surge in food prices have caught central bank off guard. The pressured governments are still reeling from the cost of the last year's emergency support to come to the rescue. I mean, nobody can afford to. Not even governments can afford to rescue these people at this point. Households' budgets, of course, are also under strain from rising borrowing costs. Interest rates, of course, that's even happening here in the U.S. already. As interest rates rise and people have to borrow more money to, of course, afford their bills, same thing the U.S. government's trying to do. Borrow more money, of course, keep increasing bills. It's very tragic watching this happen. And people are really being affected. Families are losing what they have and losing households, cars, vehicles, being homeless. But yet we're taking immigrants in at a higher rate than ever, pushing veterans out on the street that were already homed and hotels because hotels will make more money by homing an immigrant than a veteran. This is sickening. It is absolutely sickening. And this is all happening at once. I would say be prepared for a default. A default in 7 days. 7 days till we meet or till we exceed our debt ceiling. And we actually default. And 2 of those days are a weekend. So let's say 5 active days. I don't see a debt ceiling issue or a debt ceiling budget even brought up to bear by then. I don't see any kind of negotiation that's going to happen that's going to fix everything. Either they raise the debt ceiling, which is going to cause huge problems. I mean, because they're not going to cut spending or freeze spending on certain things. Democrats won't allow that. Republicans, of course, won't allow it to go forward without cutting spending on certain things. This all means bad for the U.S. people, not for the government, of course. People on Medicaid and Social Security and other payments are in jeopardy, especially people with benefits with military pay are slotted to go out in June. Military and more are slated to still go out in benefits in June. Unless Washington reaches debt ceiling deal, though, government payments for millions of Americans that rely on each month could be in jeopardy in little more than a week. Well, the deadline, of course, politically plays out in Washington. Guaranteed it's not going to happen by the timeline. Both with these payments, people's bank accounts, and it's not only adding to growing anxiety, but watching people unable to pay the U.S. government unable to pay its bills, and people unable to pay their bills after that. Of course, billions of dollars scheduled for programs such as Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, as well as military salaries and veteran benefits, are at serious risk of being unpaid or being delayed if no agreement is reached. So that means people receiving Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, disability, military salary, or veterans benefits will not get them. Last time we had this problem, last time we got close to a debt ceiling standoff was like a month away before the debt ceiling was going to be reached, and they made an agreement. So this is the closest we've ever been. And the fact remains, both parties are still far apart on a solution as of today. This is uncharted territory that we're in right now. The nation has never defaulted on its debt. It has never even become this close to defaulting on its debt. Right now, we have to remain optimistic that some kind of deal is going to be struck. Of course, what the deal is and what's it actually going to entail is going to be harsh, no matter what. They raise the debt ceiling. Right now, we're going to pay $2.6 trillion in interest alone this year on the debt. $2.6 trillion in interest, when the country is only making between $4 to $5 trillion a year. So, of course, that means adding debt or raising the debt ceiling is an ever-going thing when your interest payments are half of your income. I mean, watching June 1st, Medicare benefits cost around $47 billion. They wanted the money for that. Veteran benefits, military pay and retirement, $10 billion. $12 billion for the benefits. Social Security payments, which usually go out on the second, received on the third, but go out on the second. Medicare, totaling $27 billion, they won't be paid. The second payment for Social Security that goes out on the 14th, military salaries on the 15th, that's another $27 billion, $28 billion. China, we owe money to China. Large amounts, not small amounts at that. We shouldn't be talking about this situation. Let's be honest. This conversation should have been taking place last year, in November. That's when this conversation should have been had of debt ceiling, what they were going to do. Best way to collect silver, believe it or not, is when you go to the gas station, ask them to give you the rare change coins they get in change, because stores, especially, just turn them into the bank for face value. $50 before 1964 are silver. I mean, that's money. You can get it for 50 cents and it's worth $8. So, easy way to make money there. But possible contingencies, there is no roadmap for default. None at all. They're going to prioritize which payments to make and which to ignore. Of course, first of all, the Treasury has to pay its principal and interest on the national debt before it can pay any other benefits. So right now, you can pretty much kiss benefits goodbye if they don't raise the national debt, because there's no way we're going to even be able to pay our interest, which will compound, become a bigger legal problem amongst the US dollar falling around the world before the default. Post default, even if they come up with a solution within a week or even a few days, it's going to hurt the US economy forever. Less people are going to be secure in trading in the US dollar than ever. People need to wake up, because this is true. This is a truly big problem. I mean, it's going to hurt a lot of people. It is truly going to hurt a lot of people, and people need to be prepared. If you guys don't know, all government officials have been issued satellite phones. Yeah, Teresa, I don't know if you were on. Not just satellite phones. All old mines, Jensen mines, salt mines, and all that have been secured by U.S. military. All government officials, including all Congress and House members, have been issued satellite phones. Something is seriously happening. And this isn't just official or the two parties at odds with each other. This is something serious. I don't know if you guys even know, they snuck a Ukrainian jet flew in to an Air Force base. That was just yesterday, or was it last night or the night before? Nobody's talking about this. Be prepared. Something big is coming. I know I hate to keep saying this and stressing this, but be prepared. There's something big coming. Very big. And it's only going to get worse. I hate to say that. I think it has something to do with 30 tons of explosives missing and a nuclear power plant in Ukraine, and a Ukrainian jet that's capable of carrying 30 tons of explosives to Ukraine, landing at a military base in the U.S., and a false flag event, Memorial Day weekend. I mean, you guys use your own opinion on that. I'm just giving you the information. Carrington event is definitely not out of play, because, as you know, we have a very big biblical event happening. A star has exploded back on the 19th of last month, and the radiation from that star will be reaching us this weekend. So we'll be following closely with that. I'm trying to get more details of exactly how much radiation we're going to feel, or how much effect we will feel from it. But it is possible to see in the night sky tonight, if you have a clear sky. And it's from a distant galaxy. That's the crazy part. But more on that, of course, Friday night. I'll keep you guys updated and try to find out what's happening. But something is happening, and it's going to be big. If you guys can afford to donate, please do. We need it to support the channel. God bless you all. God bless America. Please be safe, be secure, and be ready. Be ready for anything that could happen. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But be prepared. But till then, flotation device. Yeah. Good night. God bless you. Be safe.